The Mask of Buya. In the heart of the lush Endolo village, where the sun kissed the earth with warmth and the wind whispered secrets through the trees, lived a young woman named Nyasha. She was known in the capital city as a woman of breathtaking beauty, skin like polished ebony, eyes that sparkled like stars, and a figure that could make even queens jealous. But in Endolo, she was no longer Nyasha. Here, she called herself Buya, the old woman. Wrapped in layers of faded, oversized clothes and with a scarf always hiding her face, Buya walked with a limp and spoke with a raspy voice. Her once luxurious hair was tucked beneath a gray, dusty headwrap. Every day she sold simple handmade bracelets by the roadside, her stall barely attracting attention. No one knew her real story. 2 years ago, Nyasha had her heart broken by a man who claimed to love her. Chike, a wealthy entrepreneur, had pursued her fiercely. He showered her with gifts, affection, and promises of forever. But after 6 months, he left her for a richer woman from the city. "You're beautiful," he had said during their final argument, "but beauty is everywhere. I want someone with power." That moment shattered her. She realized then that men didn't love her for her soul, they loved her for her looks, her figure, her allure. Determined to find genuine love, love that didn't see the surface, Nyasha disappeared from the city. She created the persona of Buya, moved to Endolo, and vowed not to reveal her true self until she found a man who saw past her disguise. The villagers pitied Buya. They believed she was a poor widow with no family, a woman with nothing but her craft and the kindness of strangers. Children avoided her stall, calling her the hunched one. Even the elders, known for their wisdom, whispered about her in the evenings. All except one. His name was Kofi, a quiet man who worked as a carpenter at the village edge. He was not rich, nor was he particularly handsome. But Kofi had gentle eyes and a soul that seemed to listen more than speak. Every morning, he passed by Buya's stall on his way to his workshop, and unlike the rest, he always greeted her with a smile. "Good morning, Buya," he'd say, his voice warm. And every time, she would nod, adjusting her scarf to ensure her face remained hidden. "Good morning, young man," she'd reply with a feigned croak. One rainy afternoon, as the wind howled and the market cleared, Kofi noticed Buya's bracelets getting soaked in the downpour. He rushed over, used his jacket to shield the items, and helped her gather them into a basket. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," he said, his hands steady and kind. "I have nowhere else to go," she answered, lowering her head. Kofi paused, studying her. "Then let me build you a shelter beside your stall. It won't be much, but at least you'll be safe from the rain." Buya was stunned. No one had ever offered her such kindness. Not as Nyasha, not as Buya. She wanted to refuse, to remain distant, but something in Kofi's gaze pulled at her heart. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, as she lay in the corner of her rented hut, Nyasha removed the scarf, letting her real face feel the breeze. Her heart beat faster than usual. For the first time since she donned the mask, she felt seen, not for her beauty, but for her presence. And for the first time, she wondered if love could truly bloom behind a mask. The beauty beneath the wrinkles. The shelter and the smile. Kofi worked with purpose the next morning. With planks from leftover projects, nails stored in jars, and a hammer that had seen better days, he began building the small shelter beside Buya's stall. He whistled as he worked, stopping only to wipe sweat from his brow or wave at the curious children who gathered to watch. Buya, sitting under her old umbrella, watched in silence. Every stroke of Kofi's hammer echoed in her chest. No one had ever done something so selfless for her, not in her life as Nyasha and certainly not as Booyah. She wondered why Kofi was different. Was it pity, kindness, or something deeper? Villagers stopped by, confused by Kofi's attention. Why build a shelter for an old woman? One man asked. Kofi shrugged. Because she deserves dignity. Simple words, but they lit something inside Nyasha. In her past, men sought her for what she could give them, her beauty, her body, her status. But Kofi gave without expecting. And more than that, he defended her, even when others mocked her. By afternoon, the shelter stood firm. It wasn't fancy, just a wooden frame with a thatched roof and strong poles to hold it steady. Kofi stepped back and admired his work, then turned to Booyah. "I hope this helps," he said. "It's more than I could have hoped for," she replied, her voice softer than usual. That evening, Kofi sat by the fire outside his hut. He carved a small piece of wood, his hands skillful, shaping it into a small bird. His mind kept drifting to Booyah. There was something about her, something unspoken. Beneath her hunched posture and ragged clothes, he sensed a woman with a story. Meanwhile, Nyasha sat in her shelter long after the market had closed. Her heart was tangled in emotions, gratitude, fear, hope. Was it foolish to start feeling something for a man while hiding behind a mask? What if he found out the truth and turned away, like Chike had? Still, she couldn't deny the comfort in Kofi's presence. The next morning, Kofi arrived with something in his hands. "A gift," he said, placing the carved bird on her stall. "You remind me of this bird. Small, quiet, but full of strength." Booyah took it in trembling fingers. It was beautiful, detailed, delicate, made with care. She looked up, but Kofi had already started walking away, his usual smile playing on his lips. Over the next weeks, Kofi visited her more often. Sometimes he brought tea, other times fruits or roasted maize. He sat beside her during quiet moments and told her stories of his childhood, his dreams of building a school for the village children, and his love for woodcraft. Booyah listened, laughed softly, and shared little bits of herself, nothing revealing, just enough to make him smile. One day, as they sat together, Kofi asked a question that caught her off guard. "Why do you always hide your face so well, Booyah? You speak like someone younger." She looked away. "There are things we hide to protect ourselves." Kofi didn't press further. Instead, he nodded slowly. "Whatever your reason, I respect it." That night, Nyasha stared into her cracked mirror. Her heart beat fast. Could she trust him? Could she reveal who she was? Or would the truth ruin everything? She made a decision: she would test him. Not with her beauty, but with her vulnerability. The next morning, she didn't wear the heavy scarf. She left her chin uncovered and didn't hunch as deeply. The change was subtle, but Kofi noticed. "You look different today," he said gently. "I'm tired of hiding so much," she replied. He smiled. "Then let today be the day you let the sun kiss your face." And in that moment, under the African sky, something between them began to bloom. The Council of Shadows. The next morning, the village air felt heavier. Even the birds were quieter, their songs replaced by the rustling of tense leaves. Nyasha could feel it in her bones, something had shifted. As she fetched water from the stream, children watched her with wide eyes, whispering behind cupped hands. Their mothers pulled them away. Some gave her wary looks, others just fear. She was no longer invisible. By midday, Chief Whale summoned her again. She entered the shrine with her head high, necklace visible against her chest. He noticed. "You found it." Nyasha didn't flinch. You knew it was there. I hoped you would not dig. She crossed her arms. You married me for this, didn't you? Not for alliance. Not for tradition. You married me because of what's in my blood. Whale's eyes met hers. For the first time, they were not hard. They were tired. Yes, he said. But not for power. Nyasha frowned. Then for what? Protection, he replied. From what is coming. He led her into the shrine's inner chamber. It was filled with old scrolls, dried herbs, and clay masks of forgotten gods. In the center stood a tall drum, its leather surface etched with symbols that shimmered faintly. Whale lit a stick of dried sage. There is a prophecy, hidden from most. It speaks of a fire child born of Zubedi's line. A girl who would rise when the earth thirsts for justice. Nyasha's heart skipped. You think that's me? I don't think, he said. I know. Suddenly, a loud horn blew from outside. Whale stiffened. The council is meeting. They've summoned me, and they know you've found the relic. Fear tightened Nyasha's throat. Will they try to harm me? They will try to silence what they fear. But not while I breathe. As he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. You must come, Nyasha. Not as my bride, but as the last voice of the seers. Against every instinct, she nodded. That afternoon, the council gathered beneath the sacred Iroko tree, its branches twisting like reaching arms. Elders in red robes sat in a circle. The villagers stood behind, a sea of eyes. Nyasha entered, shoulders square. The murmurs began again. She wears Zubedi's beads. She is not afraid. She should be. An elder rose. Whale, you break sacred order. You bring a girl touched by fire into a place meant for men. She is more than a girl, Whale said calmly. She is the vessel of truth. Nyasha stepped forward and unrolled the ancient scroll. The wind blew gently. She began to read. Greater than, the fire does not come to burn, but to reveal. What was buried in lies shall rise in truth. When the child of ash walks the path, the spirits will follow, and the chains of silence shall fall. Gasps echoed. One elder stood up, shaking. That scroll was lost, how did she? Whale answered, she didn't find it. It found her. In the stunned silence, Nyasha felt something stir in her chest. A heat, not of fear, but of purpose. She was no longer the weeping girl forced into a marriage. She was the voice of the forgotten. And they would hear her roar. The fire dances. The crowd stood in stunned silence. No one moved, not even the wind. Nyasha felt the air ripple around her, as if the scroll had disturbed something older than time. Then, slowly, the oldest elder, Olanji the blind, rose to his feet. His eyes were pale, but his voice was firm. I heard that scroll read once, when I was a child. It was the voice of her grandmother. Zubedi. She spoke before the council, too. Gasps ran through the crowd. She was silenced. Someone shouted. Yes, Olanji said. Because we were afraid of the change she brought. Chief Whale stepped forward. But this time, we will not bury truth. We will listen. Not everyone agreed. One of the younger elders slammed his staff to the ground. And let a girl lead us into ruin. What next? Will goats rule the warriors too? Murmurs of agreement rumbled. But before anyone else could speak, a sudden whirlwind swept through the gathering. Dust rose. Leaves spiraled in the air. The flames on the council's ceremonial torches flickered wildly, then turned blue. The people panicked. Women screamed. Men stumbled back. And Nyasha stood still. The fire recognized her. She raised a hand slowly, not knowing why. The flames bent slightly in her direction, as if bowing. Olanji gasped. She has the mark. What mark? Nyasha asked, breathless. The old man turned his blind eyes toward her. Only the fire-blooded seers can call the spirits of the flame. It was said they would return when the world was near another breaking. Suddenly, Nyasha's vision blurred. The world faded again. She fell to her knees as another vision took her. The village was in flames. The same tree, the same people, but they were screaming. And in the middle of the chaos stood a masked figure in red. Not Whale. Not an elder. Someone else. Someone powerful. Then the voice returned, Zubedi's voice. Greater than, the fire does not burn the innocent. But it devours lies. The masked one comes. Choose your allies wisely, child of ash. Nyasha gasped and awoke with a scream. Whale rushed to her side. What did you see? She looked at him with wide eyes. The village. Burning. A man in red, masked. He brings destruction. A silence fell over the crowd once more. Even the doubting elders said nothing now. Only the wind whispered. Chief Whale rose, voice low but steady. Then we must prepare. The spirits have spoken. Nyasha, still shaking, looked to the horizon. Darkness gathered there, and the fire was just beginning. The mask of the red stranger. The village did not sleep that night. Torches burned longer. Warriors sharpened their spears in silence. Mothers held their children close. The elders whispered prayers they hadn't spoken in years. And Nyasha sat beneath the great Iroko tree, her mind spinning. She had awakened something, within herself and within the land. Missoula sat beside her, quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, you see things now, don't you? Like Zubedi once did. Nyasha nodded. And I fear what's coming. Just then, the warning drums beat, 3 quick strikes, then silence. The signal of a stranger at the gates. Nyasha stood. The villagers gathered behind Whale as he approached the eastern entrance. 2 guards held a tall figure between them, cloaked in red from head to toe, face hidden behind a carved wooden mask. The mask had jagged paint, half fire, half ash. Whale raised his hand. Who are you? The figure bowed slightly. I am called Sefu wa Mvua, the Sword of Rain. I bring a message. His voice was deep, smooth as oil. What message? Whale asked. The masked man looked directly at Nyasha. That the one who carries Zubedi's fire must come with me, or your village will burn before the next moon rises. The crowd gasped. Whale stepped in front of Nyasha. You dare threaten sacred ground. I don't threaten, Sefu said calmly. I only deliver prophecy. Nyasha stepped forward, her voice steady. What do you want from me? The stranger tilted his head. To help you fulfill your destiny. You do not belong to this place. You belong to the mountain of truth, where your powers will either awaken fully, or consume you. The flames of the torches flared at his words. One of the elders growled, he's a trickster. He speaks poison. But Nyasha looked into the masked man's eyes, cold, sharp, but not entirely cruel. He was dangerous. But he wasn't lying. She spoke clearly. Then I'll go with him. But not alone. Whale grabbed her arm. You can't. Trust him. I don't, she whispered. But I trust the fire. And it tells me this is the path. Whale's eyes softened. Then I go with you. No, Nyasha said. You must protect the village. She turned to Missoula and embraced her. If I don't return before the new moon, bury the necklace beneath the tree again. Then, without another word, she followed the masked stranger into the dark. And as they vanished beyond the trees, the flames of the village torches flickered one last time. The fire child was walking into her storm.